Good morning and greetings to all of the honorable judges, fellow participants, and everyone present here. My name is Zaimatul. I came from Rembang, and today I stand here as the Prime Minister during the motion. This House will prioritize preserving cultural traditions even at the cost of slowing social progress. Before we begin, we live in a country with thousands of islands and tons of culture that makes us different from one another. Indonesia is a multicultural country which has millions of culture to be preserved in order to protect them from extinction in the current status quo. Because when a culture is being abandoned slowly by its society, the culture that should be eternal becomes eroded and destroyed, leaving nothing but pieces of memory to the next generation. First thing first, before we begin, let us define the core foundation of this motion. Cultural tradition refers to the tradition and culture from a group that has been passed down through generation within a specific community. On the other hand, social progress refers to the foster individual rights, gender-neutral inheritance reform, and rapid integration, etc. Which is why we strongly believe that these are less than a focus for us today, because in order to build a nation with high intelligence systems comes from their own culture in the first place. When we preserve this culture, then we make sure that they are blessed with the knowledge and their heritage will ensure them with social progress furthermore. Culture is the legacy of ancestors passed down from generation to generation, and in the current status quo that is filled with globalization and modern culture, this culture was so fragile and vulnerable, often being left behind by its own group and society because they choose foreign culture rather than their traditional one. So the world has changed now. It's not the same as before. Now, what people do every day is almost based on the trend in social media. These trends are what's slowly replacing our own cultural tradition due to the lack of preservation from today's generation. They often choose to dance on viral TikTok songs rather than learning traditional dance of our own. If we continue to let this happen, we're not only erasing our culture, but we're also erasing our generation's morals slowly but surely. The question for this debate is simple. Are we going to protect the survival of unique human culture, or are we going to force them into a fast, aggressive system that destroys their identity? When we talk about slowing the social progress here, we do not mean by giving us from them, but we shift the focus into preserving the unique cultural tradition itself. We are not keeping them to be trapped. We are talking about protecting communities from being crushed by modernization beforehand. The focus of this debate lies on the case of the island province of Aruna, which the ancestral system is being completely destroyed due to the modernization from the national government and urban evil society groups that have pushed them, when in reality, this modernization is unnecessary to do and brings harms towards the rumah adat system. Not every reform toward them is handled and applied perfectly, which is why it will create a massive chaos. Moving on to my arguments then, why is it so important to preserve the cultural tradition even at the cost of slowing social progress? The case of Aruna lies on two main points of argument of mine. Firstly, slowing down rapid integration to modernization is vital to not make the traditional communities stuck on a lagging system. Traditional children who live on an undeveloped area is often lacks the modern infrastructure, and when they actually had it to distribute to them in those areas, these are a massive decentralization that these kids must follow. When we shift their usual habit into a new one with no time for them to adjust, we make them question about it and we make them confused. When these children are rapidly forced into the system, they spend their time trying to fit into the system while completely losing their native language, traditional place, and centuries-old knowledge. When we push modernization too fast to them and not applying it good enough, we make them undeveloped again for their culture and create a gap between them and their elders. Those groups of traditional cultural citizens already has their own system to function in the social life, and there's a foreign system enters their community. It destroyed the centuries-old mechanism that has been protected from a long time. This applies to the case of rumah adat, where they decentralized everything massively that it destroyed their systemic life into a modern one, when the people actually didn't need it at all. If this happens to multiple people, the village gets broken into pieces. The Kairan community will lose their farms, their homes, and end up as poor laborers with nowhere else to go because the modern system failed them. Why? Because when they fail to fit into the system, a more capable person will took it away and leaving them with nothing. Secondly, the Elder Council makes the big decision and solve local fights for free. Right now, Elder Council make the big decision and solve local fights for free when the government wants to force individual free term and outside laws onto the village overnight. Then what would happen when we actually implement these things? There will be a huge gap. Outside laws do not understand how the village works. If you force an outside law too fast, you clearly destroy this ancient system that has been functioning fairly for decades. Families will start suing each other in expensive city courts. The elders will lose their respect, and vulnerable people who lack this strength will lose automatically when someone drags them to court. Which is why preservation is better, because the law is fair and square. We do not need to make other system that is undeniably irrelevant to the society. The elders has been kept peace on the island for centuries. Flowing down outside laws allows the village to take care of its own rules that actually work for them. Then what is our path to victory for this debate? Firstly, we suggest for the national government to officially pass a law to recognize the Kairan ancestral land as a protected Adat territory. This law will officially state that the land belongs to the clans collectively, to make it legally impossible for individuals' titles to be created or for outside corporations to enter the island without the explicit written permission of the Elder Council, to prevent them from doing anything illegally that is permanently to destroy the systemic clan system. Secondly, we protect the centuries-old system for the Kairan people and apply it directly to the villagers, and shoving modern system outside if it is not needed. If this system is actually not needed, then we actually will prioritize the first system beforehand when we actually build something that is based on their ability for centuries. We show this system to focus entirely to solve the problem rather than using a new one that is not relevant and is applying too hard enough for the people. And with that, I am proud to propose.